Imagine looking up at the night sky, seeing that glowing silver sphere and knowing we are going there. For all of human history, the moon was an untouchable god, a distant dream, a mysterious light in the dark. But in the summer of 1969, three men strapped themselves to the top of a controlled explosion and left our world behind to make history forever. This is the thrilling story of Apollo 11, but it is not just a story of math and metal. It is a story of terrifying risks, heart-stopping computer failures, and a ticking clock with millions of people watching on live television across the entire globe. How did we achieve the impossible? What really happened in those final breathless seconds before touching the lunar dust? Buckle up, because the journey of a lifetime begins right now. Let us rewind the clock. The year is 1962. The Cold War is freezing over, and the United States is losing the space race. The Soviet Union had already launched the first satellite, Sputnik, and put the first human, Yuri Gagarin, into orbit. America desperately needed a miracle. They needed a goal so massive, so audacious, that it would permanently shift the balance of global power. Enter President John F. Jackson. In a stadium filled with thousands, he declared, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard." That single sentence ignited the greatest peacetime mobilization in human history. Nearly 400,000 engineers, scientists, and mathematicians united under one banner, NASA. Their monumental task? To build a machine capable of defying gravity itself and surviving the dark void of deep space. The result was an absolute monster of engineering, the Saturn V. Standing taller than a 36-story building and packing enough fuel to light up a small city, it was a terrifying beast of fire and steel. Inside this colossal machine sat our three heroes, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins. They were fearless test pilots, warriors of the sky, possessing nerves forged from absolute ice. But even with all the training in the world, the odds of success were barely 50-50. President Nixon even had a somber speech prepared in case the astronauts never came home. The stakes were truly astronomical. The entire world held its collective breath as the final countdown echoed through the giant speakers. 10, 9, 8, ignition sequence starts. Humanity reaches out today. The journey to the moon took 3 incredibly tense days. Hurtling through the black abyss at 24,000 miles per hour, the crew watched Earth shrink into a fragile blue marble. But getting to lunar orbit was only half the battle. The true nightmare began during the descent. On July 20th, Neil and Buzz crawled into the lunar module, affectionately named the Eagle, leaving Michael Collins behind in the command module to orbit alone. Collins became the loneliest man in the universe. Every time his ship passed behind the dark side of the moon, he lost all radio contact with humanity. Total, crushing silence. Meanwhile, the Eagle began its treacherous drop toward the lunar surface. This was the moment of truth. They were aiming for a flat plain called the Sea of Tranquility. The plan was highly calculated, programmed into a computer less powerful than a basic modern calculator. What could possibly go wrong? Everything. As they descended past 30,000 feet, the first wave of terror struck. A yellow warning light suddenly flashed violently on the control panel. Program alarm 1202. Inside the tiny, cramped cabin, Neil and Buzz stared at the code. They had never seen it during their main simulations. It meant the main landing radar computer was overloading. It was completely overwhelmed by incoming data and was threatening to reboot. If the computer crashed, they would instantly lose navigation. The protocol for a major computer failure at this altitude was simple: abort the mission immediately, fire the engines, tear the ship in half, and blast back up to orbit. Down in Houston, Mission Control was locked in sheer panic. Flight Director Gene Kranz demanded answers. Do we abort? Do we pull the plug? A young 26-year-old software expert named Steve Bales had seconds to make the most important decision of his life. He recognized the code from a rare backdoor simulation. He keyed his mic. "We are go" on that alarm. Houston relayed the message: ignore the terrifying alarm, keep dropping. But the computer glitch had already caused a massive problem. The Eagle was coming in too fast, and they had drastically overshot their planned landing zone. Neil Armstrong looked out the tiny triangular window and saw absolute disaster. The computer was steering them directly into a massive crater the size of a football field, and it was filled with boulders as big as cars. If they landed there, the fragile legs of the Eagle would snap, tipping the ship over. They would be stranded, dead men on the moon. Neil did not hesitate. He flicked a switch, disabling the autopilot. He took manual control, flying this strange alien spacecraft like a helicopter over the desolate terrain. He had to find a smooth spot, and he had to do it fast. Why? Because a new, even more terrifying problem was happening. They were rapidly running out of fuel. The descent engine was guzzling propellant at an alarming rate. Houston called out the fuel warnings. 60 seconds. Neil pushed the Eagle forward, skimming over the deadly rocks, desperately searching for a clear patch of dust. Buzz called out their altitude and speed, his voice entirely devoid of emotion, a cold machine of pure focus. Down 2.5. Forward, forward, 30 seconds. Mission Control was dead silent. Men stopped breathing. Some turned blue, gripping their consoles until their knuckles turned white. If Neil did not plant the ship on the ground in the next 20 seconds, the engine would violently sputter and die. They would drop like a heavy stone and smash into the harsh lunar surface. 15 seconds. Dust began to kick up from the engine exhaust, creating a blinding, chaotic storm outside the window. Neil was flying totally blind, feeling his way down through the gray fog. 10 seconds, 9, 8, 7, and then a sudden, sharp, beautiful jolt. A bright blue light illuminated on the dashboard. Contact light. The engine abruptly cut off. Perfect silence magically returned to the vast, empty vacuum of cold space. They made it. Safe. The entire planet exhaled. Against all odds, the Eagle had finally landed. History was forever rewritten in that one breathless, unforgettable moment. Truly incredible. In Houston, capsule communicator Charlie Duke finally managed to exhale. He keyed his microphone and said, "Roger, Tranquility, we copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We are breathing again." The impossible had been achieved. Hours later, the heavy hatch opened. Millions of people huddled around their fuzzy black and white televisions, mesmerized by the ghostly image of a man climbing down a silver ladder. As Neil Armstrong planted his boot into the pristine, gray powder of the lunar surface, he spoke the words that will echo through eternity. That is one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Apollo 11 was not just a grand victory for America. It was a profound triumph for the entire human race. It proved that our absolute limits are only temporary illusions. It showed us that when we combine pure courage, brilliant engineering, and an unbreakable will, we can literally touch the stars. The astronauts returned to Earth as ultimate global heroes, but the true legacy of that daring mission remains up there, untouched by wind or rain. Those famous footprints will remain in the silent lunar dust for millions of years, a permanent shining monument to the glorious day we finally left our cradle. If you felt the adrenaline of this legendary journey, make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss a mission. But while Apollo 11 was a flawless triumph, just a few months later, space travel showed its darkest, deadliest side. Click the video on your screen right now to discover the terrifying, claustrophobic, freezing nightmare of Apollo 13. Trust me, you are not ready. I will see you right there.